Hi guys, welcome back to Is Fire for Me. I'm Jesse and this is my wife Kim, and you are here for a special fireside edition of the Frugal Friday episode. So Kim, why don't you tell us what chapter we're on and where we're at?
I feel like I'm reading a ghost story or something, like gather round and listen close.
I mean, it could be depending on what it's asking us to do.
Good point, yeah.
So, alright, well make sure you speak up because the camera's way over there.
Okay, so we are reading The Art of Frugal Hedonism by Annie Razor Rowland and Adam Grubb. And today we are on Notice When You Have Enough. A while back, Annie made a list that looked like this. Stuff to get: visor, slotted spoon, ladle, metal, fabric with pineapples for jacket, lid for fry pan, 28 centimeters. She acquired a pan lid from a box of kitchen gear someone had put out on the street and a visor via a friend's closet purge before she got around to cruising the second-hand stores. When she did go, she quickly found the perfect ladle and slotted spoon, put them in her basket, and went to hunt for pineapple-patterned clothing. The drought in pineapple print textiles out there is truly severe, and Annie resorted to embroidering pineapples onto her jacket while being read stories by Adam over some long winter evenings. Approaching the cash register, Annie felt an odd aversion to buying the two utensils. A little voice in her head was saying, "Life has actually been great without those things in it for years now, so why get them? Sure, you put them on a list because there were a couple of times when you thought, what we need right now is a slotted spoon. But you got around it just fine on those occasions, and you will continue to get around it on any such future occasions." She returned the utensils to the shelf and left the store empty-handed, which felt surprisingly nice. The two utensils would have cost a grand total of $1.98, so it definitely wasn't price that prevented her from buying them. It was the pleasant lightness that came with recognizing her true lack of need for them. We can spend a lot of energy in modern life tallying up what we might be lacking. Most people carry a conscious or subconscious "things would be better if" list in their heads, which they constantly update and revise. It can be phenomenally liberating to notice that your life has been fine so far, maybe even pretty darn good, with what you already have. Or that if it hasn't, it probably is not because of a deficit of wireless speakers or a proper toothbrush holder instead of that mug with the pictures of Smurfs on it that you've always used to keep toothbrushes in. So the question you might want to ask yourself next time you are about to buy something, whether it's a slotted spoon or a whole new kitchen, is not, will this make my life better, but has my life so far been bad without this in it? This line of questioning circumvents some common bugs in the human brain. In most cases, a new purchase does make some small aspect of life easier or nicer, and our brains anticipate this without factoring in the complete price of our purchases, be it money stress, overstuffed cupboards, reduced creativity, or getting pudgy. Our brains also generally fail to acknowledge how speedily we will adapt to our slightly improved life and start scanning for the next thing that could be bettered, barely pausing to register a happiness spike from the previous improvement. By comparison, just the act of asking yourself the second question can make you feel happier as you notice with shock how well off you really are. A crucial step in allowing this mental process to happen is to put a little time between the idea of buying something and actually doing it. If you're merely thinking that you should get something, you can put it through this filter any old time. If you're already in a store surging with the adrenaline of an imminent impulse buy, take a deep breath, step away from the throw rug / shoes of the moment / wooden duck / milk frother, and go about your day. Still convinced that you should buy the object of desire a week later? Go back and get it. But mostly you will have forgotten about it by then and gotten on with more interesting things. There's a little box here that says more good is not always better. It's not just our gear that we tend to assume we should improve if we have the capacity to. Humans feel a strong compulsion to say yes to anything our culture has deemed good, from a promotion, even if we already feel overwhelmed at work, to an all-expenses-paid trip to speak at a conference in Barcelona, even if we are already way too busy for comfort. Frugal hedonism is partly about noticing when less might be more, and that applies to activity just as much as in the realm of consumption. If you're too busy, don't add a new commitment until you can ditch a current one. If you're already loving life, check whether saying yes to another appealing project could steal important time from some less visible aspects of your world. It's as much about the spaces between things. as it is about the things themselves, man.
So, you know what we don't have enough of?
What?
People hitting the like button.
Oh.
Yep. So, if you enjoy our videos, we'd enjoy seeing that by you hitting our like button for us and subscribing to our channel. So, sorry for that shameless plug there, but I needed to fit it in a little sooner because, to be honest, some of you aren't making it to the end of the videos where we used to put that segment. So,
I mean, we do blather on a lot, so that's probably
we
why.
do blather on a bit. So, I'm going to hunch up a little closer to this fire because it's cold out today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just watching another channel where this husband and wife and their newborn baby are living out of a van. And while you were reading this, I thought about what I was thinking when I was watching that, and he was making pancakes. And while he started making the pancakes, he was pouring, I didn't know what he was making at the time, he was just showing himself making something for breakfast. And he was pouring all the ingredients into a pot, or a pan actually, and then he was whisking it all together, and so I thought he was going to cook something in that pan. And then he starts ladling out of that pan onto a frying pan, and cooking on the frying pan, and I realized he was making pancakes. And so I was like, oh, I bet living in a... There goes your phone. I bet living in a van, you don't have a lot of room for a lot of extra things, like extra bowls for mixing and stuff like that, so you just make do with what you have, and then you wash them, and then you don't have to carry as much stuff. And then he took, after he was done with the pancakes, and stuck them into like a bigger pot that you would normally boil water in, and that's where he stored them until they ate them, and then he pulled them out of there. So while you were reading this, it made me think of that, and think about how that made me think while watching it of, I wonder what items I could do without, and maybe lessen the amount of things that we have to have, because we all think, okay, we need all these different things in order to accomplish something, but really, if we just utilize the stuff that we have in a different fashion of what maybe it was made for, it would suffice just fine. So, I don't know, when you were reading that segment, it kind of made me think of that, and I don't know, is that kind of what they were talking about?
I often think about that anytime I hear about someone who's like living out of a backpack as they travel through Europe, or anyone who van dwells or tiny house lives. I mean, when you don't have as much space to store your things, you don't have as many things, and then if you don't have as many things, that means one, maybe you don't eat the pancakes or do the whatever if you don't have what you need to make them. But also, if you have something else, you just kind of figure out like, oh, I can use this for this other purpose, and it does sort of the same thing. So
yeah.
I think people can get really creative if you have, different or fewer items. And I really like the idea of being, at the store and thinking, how has my life been without this thing? As opposed to being like, will this make my life better? Because I do think it's true a lot of times when we're in line at the store, we might think, will this make my life better? And it will make your life incrementally better or easier because you don't have to find a way to ladle things without a, ladle with holes or whatever. But if you've been making do without it, then you can continue to make do without it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to store it, you don't have to organize it, you don't have to work to pay for it, etc., etc.
Yeah. So, interesting. I like that. I like the concept there, and I think there's probably things that we think we need that we might be able to do without. I think a lot of it, when you're picking up a new hobby or something you don't know much about, you look to someone who does it more often, and you look at all the nice stuff they have to be able to do it. Whether, when I first started this channel, I was looking at all the cameras and lighting and everything that people had to do this, and thinking I needed all that stuff in order to be able to make a good video. And at some point you got to stop and start doing it and figuring out what you do have and what you can make do with and how you can adjust. And yes, having the nicer lighting and the better cameras and stuff like that make it easier to do. And eventually, if it's something you continue doing, sure, you can grow into that stuff. But I think sometimes we just need to step back and start doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else we want to get out of this segment?
I'd love to hear if there's ways that you've implemented this in your own life, whether, you knew that you were doing it, or now you're just like, oh wait, I did that, this one time. We'd love to hear about that below in the comments. And I think that's it. Thank you for joining us at this Fireside Frugal Friday.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
Bye.